Okay, so let's proceed to the after the conceptual, we have design and planning, and we have now empirical phase. Empirical phase is how we collect data and preparing our data analysis. So, so in collecting data, we have different types of data. We have the existing data, we have the original data. So in existing data, we have raw data and we have tabular data. In raw data, these are records from the admission, discharge, birth or death, laboratory records. And for us, nursing researchers, we are more on the statistics, no? That is the City Health Office statistics, the WHO statistics. No? These are raw data. In tabular data, these are some of the numbers of patients by quarter total. Okay? So these are some of the rates, no? Infection rate, nandiyan yung ating mga GWA, mga grades, okay? Okay, then we have tabular data. We have total number of patients admitted by quarter, total CS per year. So in the original data, data that are yet to be gathered or collected from subjects using varied tools, instrument, or per collection. So again, we have existing, we have original data. So we have also types of data based on the if it's continuous or if it's discrete. No, if it's continuous, may be found at any point along the continuum or linear, cannot be measured accurately. In the concepts of continuum from good to bad, okay. Then if it's discrete, it is expressed in a whole number and cannot be measured accurately. So we have also observational data, wherein data is obtained through visual observation of people's behavior. So entails recording of events or findings. This is more applicable in qualitative. Okay, so we have characteristics and condition of individuals, characteristic condition of the environment, and the communication of non-verbal communication. So this is very important, specifically in qualitative phenomenology. You are observing not only the individual but also the environment where you are conducting your interview, and also you must be sensitive to the nonverbal communication. Okay, so methods of observation, we have structured and unstructured. So in types of observer, we have participant observer. So participant observer, you are involved, no, in some of the practices. And you have overt observer. You disclose that you are a researcher and you are doing this to gather data. And covert observer, covert participant observer, you are not disclosing but you are interacting with them. Okay. However, so later we'll discuss the different covert and participant observer. So for these are the four phases of observer's role. So the phase one, primarily observation, learning the ropes, no? So phase one is more on establishing rapport, no? Nakikipag-usap tayo, nakikipaghalubilo tayo, kumustahan. Phase two is primarily observation with some participation. Unti-unti tayo ay tumutubog, no? Ibig sabihin nakikipamuhay sa kanila. And eventually in phase three is participation with some observation. We learn through experiences. Okay, so this is more ethnography, no? So nakikipamuhay tayo, pinag-aaralan natin yung kanilang mga practices, and eventually you actively participate. And last is phase 4 is reflective observation. Ngayon, meron kang data regarding your observation, your interview, and now you do your reflection. What is the effect to you as an observer or as a researcher? Okay? So there are another type is non-participant observer. So, hindi ka nagpa-participate, you are only observing their practices. An overt non-participant, you disclose. No, you disclose to the community. Okay, you disclose to the community that you are there to part to observe, but you are not participating. However, in the covert non-participant observer, you are observing them without their knowledge. No, so there is a question of ethical. No, consider ethical implication that may possibly lead to violation of ethical principles. Okay, so these are strategies to prevent observational biases. So we have first is the Hawthorne or placebo effect. So Hawthorne effect is because you are being observed, you will the respondents will portray the best practices, okay, or the acceptable practices because they are being observed. In enhancement of contrast effect, observe distorts observation in dividing content into clear-cut entities. You have converse effects and assimilatory biases. Halo effect naman is more on may figure in observation using the rating scale, no? Yung first impression last, no? So in halo effect, if in the first impression it's good, so all of the observation, succeeding observation will be good, and also vice versa. So these are the halo effects. Okay? So error of leniency and error of severity. So in error of leniency, tendency of the observer to rate every characteristic positively, kahit mali na. Okay? Then we have also error of leniency. A severity is tendency observer to rate every characteristic negatively or too harshly. So again, because of your biases, no? You have also your biases and preferences. So there's an error of leniency and error of severity. So these are some of the data gathered to our from our respondents. We have biophysical, biophysiological data. So this data came from uh, equipment, no? So that yield a results of very accurate and precise because we are using thermometer, sphygmomanometer. So most direct, precise, and sensitive, no? So for example nga, thermometer, fetoscope, spirometer, okay? So pilot study, sometimes called the feasibility study, is the primary trial run or dry run. So the purpose of the pilot study is to make an improvement in research project, assess problem that must be corrected before an actual study is attempted. Okay? So again, para hindi tayo magsayang ng mga oras, sayang ng pera. So then let's discuss how to create an instrument, how to create a questionnaire, no? So for quanti it's a questionnaire, for quali it is a guided interview guide or interview guide. Okay? Okay, next is criteria of an instrument. Number one is reliability. The said reliable instrument is consistent, measures its accuracy, stability, dependability. Involves the instrument and not the subject. So we have the aspects of reliability. So how can we say that it's reliable? So number one, stability. The extent to which similar results are obtained on two separate administration of instrument. Thus, we implement pilot test, no? So for us to test the stability. Okay? Sorry. So next is we have internal consistency. Internal consistency under reliability is the extent to which the item of the instrument measure the same trait or attribute and nothing else. So in creating your instrument, di ba? It is based on the objectives of the study. However, all of the items on must answer the objectives of the study. Okay? And these items must directly, okay, have a relationship or an item that a trait that could answer your objectives. Okay? Equivalence, the extent to which equivalent results are obtained in different observer. Again, the importance of pilot test. So these are some of the errors of measurement. Specifically, if it's a quantitative, a questionnaire, a self-made questionnaire. Number one is instrument factors. So there are unclear direction. For example, uh, you have a Likert scale of 1 to 5. Okay? From 1 is the lowest, 5 is the highest. So some of the researcher, they tend to change it. No, high, 1 is the highest and 5 is the lowest. Thus, there's confusion. So kailangan maging clear tayo kung paano tayo maggagawa ng directions. Okay? Number 2. Sorry. Next is clarity in wording and ordering of questions. So later, I will discuss some of the do's and don'ts of creating a questionnaire. Number 3, format of question and poor item sampling. So if your objective, you have 5 objectives, and in those 5 objectives, you must have equal questions. Okay, so if you have 10 questions for objective number 1, then 2 and 3 must also have 10 questions. Okay, so situation factors, these are also affecting the errors of measurement, because if it's poor lighting, they cannot read, no? They cannot read the text. Or in poor lighting, extreme temperature, if it's more on the qualitative, it's more on the interview part, they tend to be irritated. That could affect your results of the interview, because they are irritated already. Thus, all of the answers probably will be having a emotional effect, okay, to your questions. Disturbing noise, location of data collection. So these factors must be clear in your methodologies, no? So you must ensure that there is no, or you may lessen, or you must lessen the errors of measurement. Trait factors, response personal factors. So general characteristics, test taking skills, ability to understand instruction. So you must be sensitive enough to your respondents. Okay. So some of you will have an interview or a survey to our brothers and sisters in the Bajawan community. Thus, you must ensure that they are knowledgeable in the use of our language, may it be a Tagalog or English. If not, if they have difficulty, you must translate it onto their local language. Okay? Next is temporary characteristics. So emotion, fatigue, bias, motivation, hunger, illness, and mood. So these components, now temporary characteristics, must be what must be lessened in terms of data gathering, because if not, their answers, may it be a quantitative or a qualitative, will have an effect. Okay, response set bias, enduring characteristic of respondent, social desirability, acquiescences. So again, these are the example of a halo effect, no? Dahil gwapo or maganda yung ini-interview, iba yung approach na. So kailangan walang bias, okay? So observer examiner, tayo naman, if there's a measurement based on the observer and examiner factors. So respondents, so level of ability, observational skills, and bias. No, so as a researcher, we must be in neutral. Okay, our principles and values cannot affect our observation. Okay, kaya nga nagba-bracketing. No, we do bracketing before our data gathering, because in bracketing we remove our biases and previous idea. Okay, again, it has emotion, fatigue tayo din, even uh, if we are hungry, if we are irritated. So the manner of questioning could be affected also. Non-adherence to data collection method. So if you have a self-made questionnaire, stick with your self-made questionnaire. And if you have guide question, stick to your guide question. And your follow-up question must be related to the answer of the respondents. So consideration to increase liability of the research instrument. Number one, increase the number of items observation. So the higher the items per objectives, the accurate and the precise and the more in-depth analysis could be gathered. Okay? Eliminate items that are unclear. If you have double negative word, kaya if you may not to except, 'di ba? So this is confusing, okay? Standardize the condition under which the test is taken. Again, if you will standardize the time, standardize the area, standardize the setup, okay? So for us to limit the biases, okay, or the external factors. Moderate the easiness and difficulty of the test, minimize the effect of external events. Postpone the assessment if the major external event occur near the time of testing instrument. Okay, so in an interview, you have scheduled an interview with your respondents this Wednesday. However, last this coming Monday, no, she mentioned or he mentioned that her or his pet died. So probably you may reschedule that because this may affect his or her answer. Okay? So you must be sensitive to those factors. Okay? Standardize the instruction. Keep scoring procedure consistent. So if you use these rubrics, if you use this Likert scale, so it is constant across all of the respondents or all of the samples. So after reliability, we have validity. So in validity, it's a degree to which an instrument measure what is supposed to measure. Valid when it measures what it claims as supported by evidence. So we have different types of validity. Okay, so number one is the phase validity. The instrument looks as though it measures the appropriate attribute. Okay, so if you create your self-made questionnaire, so first, for it to be valid, it must be look as a questionnaire. No? So nandun yung uh, the direction, diba? Then it is divided into different parts based on your objectives, and it must be clear, no, clear ang direction. We have the appropriate Likert scale that's being used and the items. Okay, measure how well the items they measure are appropriate criterion. Content validity is it must be validated by an expert. Kunyari, your research is more on mental health, no, suicide, anxiety, depression. So it must be validated by a psychologist, registered psychologist, or a psychiatric nurse. Okay? Measure how well the items represent the entire universe. We have also construct. If student measures the abstract concept or construct it tends to measure, the more abstract the concept, the more difficult it is to establish. Okay? So, in construct validity, your items or every item in your questionnaire must answer the specific objective. And we must lessen the abstract concept in your item. So criterion-related validity, if scores correlate highly with the scores of the criterion, and if it's useful predictor of the other behavior experiences. Okay, for example, current skills and aptitude test. No, this is a criterion of validity. So we have concurrent validity if it can distinguish individuals who differ on the present criterion. Measure how well the test estimate criterion. You have predictive validity if it can differentiate the accuracy, adequacy of people performance on some future criterion. So these are the criteria evaluating research instrument. Comprehensibility. So if it's comprehensive, it cut across all, it can answer all the objectives of the study. It is comprehensible if it's in lay words. No, we do not use jargons. Comprehensibility. Next is efficiency. So if you create your self-made questionnaire, so you are 4 to 5 members, you may answer it and time yourself for you to include it in the cover letter. Okay, this survey tool will be only take for ilang minutes. Okay? Objectivity, again, the items must be objectively created. No? Reactivity, sensitivity. Okay, sensitivity to specific items and specific topics. Okay? Specificity, no? It's very precise. Simplicity, again, no double-barreled question. Speededness. So, uh, there are researchers that needs 1 hour to answer, but if you can trim it down to 30 minutes, so because you are asking only a favor, no, to our respondents, and if it will took a lot of time, probably there will be a decrease in acceptance rate, or they will not answer your questionnaire because it will took a lot of time on their daily operations. Okay, so guidelines in creating an instrument. So number one, suits its function or purpose as it relates to particular purpose of the study. Again, go back to your objectives. No. Next is based on the study theoretical framework. Again, the theoretical framework is very important for you to identify variables that is applicable to your study. And these variables, and every variable could be an item to your questionnaire. It must be valid and reliable. So again, it has to be, we must undergo a pilot test for it to be test the reliability test, no? For it to check if the items are uh, are answering your objectives. Okay. Gather adequate and accurate data to test the study hypothesis and answer questions under the investigation. It must be simple and direct. There must be simple direction. There must be free of biases. Okay. Design and construction minimize cheating or contamination through outside influence. So methods of collecting data. So number one is questionnaire. This is the most common. These are the most common data collection in quantitative, no? So it must have a cover letter accompanying the questionnaire. Cover letter is we have the title, the objective, no? What are the uh, responsibilities, obligation of the researcher, and also the respondents. So the advantages of questionnaire, it's economy of time and money, no? So after distribution, you're waiting only for the retrieval, okay? Then it is the testing of its reliability and validity, ability to maintain respondents' anonymity and confidentiality. So in questionnaire, no, some of the disadvantages is costly of printing and mailing and low response rate. So luckily, in your data gathering in a quantitative study or descriptive study, you can gather your data through online, no? So with the use of different platforms, okay? So some of the disadvantages also is difficult retrieval of questions, requires respondent literacy and understanding. Again, it must depend on the literacy level of your respondents. Cannot be used for extremes of age, no? Minsan hindi nila nababasa, hindi nila nakikita. So in steps in preparing a questionnaire, first is decide what information to be sought. Again, you will be guided by your objectives of the study, and you will be guided by what theoretical framework will would you use. Okay, decide what type of questionnaire should be used. So there are a lot of questionnaires, no, or how you will measure, how will you gather, how will you answer an objective, no? Right? First, the draft of questionnaire, free response, and multiple choice. So free response is free text, no? Sila magsusulat. Multiple choice, you have um, choices, no? Para siyang kung ito ay gagamit ka ng pre-test or post-test, no? Multiple choice is one of the choices, no? Re-examine and revise the question. So again, re-examine and revise the question. You will read and reread all of your questions, and you must check if it's under a specific objective. Do a pre-test and edit the questionnaire and specify the procedure. Okay? So again, I want to emphasize that in creating a questionnaire, um, let your other members answer the questionnaire and check if are there items that is confusing, are there items that is not in be must not be included in the under that section that answer a specific objective. So guidelines in wording of the questionnaire. Number one, use words that are clear and specific. No, dapat klaro, no? Dapat klaro ang ating okay? Then we have use simple, direct, and familiar vocabulary. Keep direct and familiar vocabulary. Keep question as short as possible. Avoid double-barreled questions. Okay, so avoid double-barreled questions. Kunyari, are you engaged in meditation and yoga? It must be specific. If it's, are you engaged in meditation? Are you engaged in yoga? Okay? Okay, then guided, avoid leading questions which lead to respond to particular answer. Okay, so specifically if it's in qualitative research, in guide question, you must not in leading, no? Kaya, do you agree that abortion is acceptable? No, it's a leading question. You may translate it to, what is your opinion about abortion? No, let him or her express if it's amenable or not amenable and why. Avoid loaded words or emotional laden. For example, use psychological affected rather than psychiatric illness or mental illness child, because some words connotes discrimination and stigma. So, kailangan i-ano yun, i-limit. Okay? Then, for ordering, start with most interesting question in order to capture respondents. Okay? So, establish rapport before, start with most interesting questions. Okay? So, kumustahan, di ba? Then establish rapport before asking question pertaining to sensitive matters, no? So kailangan maganda yung transition, no, from kumustahan to data gathering. For self-administered questionnaire, obtain demographic data at the end. So for interview, obtain the demographic data at the beginning. Again, this is not prescriptive. Hindi lahat ng kinukuhanan ng demographic profile, because it must you must prove that this demographic profile has an effect or must be included in your paper. Kung hindi naman, bakit mo kukunin yung demographic profile, no? Use funnel questions, start with the most general to progressing to a specific question. Okay? Use filter question appropriately and carefully and cautiously. No? Ingat lang dito kasi clear dapat yung inyong direction. Kunyari, have you ever been received treatment for UTI? If yes, no? Answer 1 to 5. If no, proceed to 6 to 10. So it must be clear, no, that there are filtered questions. For example, kunyari, may mga nakaranas ng depression or anxiety. So pag sinabi nilang yes doon, tatalon sila sa iba't ibang other parts of the questionnaire. Okay? Yan. Let's proceed to the most common type of data gathering in qualitative, no? So it's an interview, no? In the interview, it's more on a interaction or with our respondents, no? Through interview or asking question. So we must have an interview schedule. We must have an interview plan, no? Interview schedule, where will you do your interview, when, no? Who, diba? It must be clear. And the duration. So interview guide is the questions, no? These are semi-structured questions that uh, could be the skeleton, no? Could be the guide of our respondents, or sorry, the researcher. Okay? So these are the element of an interview. No? First is we must establish rapport. No? Kumustahan, kumusta na sila. Then eventually they will feel that they are comfortable opening up. Thus, we must be consistent and we must ensure the confidentiality and anonymity clause. Okay? Next, we must listen analytically. So, what's the meaning of this? Um, you must listen on some of the subtle items that could be clarified. Okay, kailangan mo ma-clarify yung mga vague answers, no? Then we will do probing or follow-up questions. So we can have expectant silence, we have request for clarification or request for elaboration. Okay, for example, may nabanggit siya na, alam mo, nalungkot ako. Yung parang ganon. So, ang tayo bilang mga researchers, anong tanong natin? So, ano pong dahilan kung bakit kayo nalungkot? Ano pong inyong naramdaman? Ano pong nangyari? So, ganon yung mga pwedeng probing question or exploratory questions. Okay? For you to understand his or her experiences. Okay? It must be motivating. No, hindi tayo nagdi-demean, tayo ay non-judgment ang ating approach, lalo na pag tayo nag-interview. And we maintain the control. You will experience, no, if you will have your interview already, there are respondents that have a lot of stories to tell. Thus, you must be on control. For example, ang dami niyang sinasabi. So, ang gagawin natin ay tayo mismo magsasabi na, okay po, maraming salamat po, naintindihan ko naman po yung inyong nararamdaman. Pwede po bang balik muna po tayo dun sa topic natin. Okay? So, in a polite manner, no? Na hindi siya naman mababastos in a way. Okay? So, these are types of an interview. We have unstructured, we have semi-structured. Pag sabing unstructured, more on conversational. Wala kang sinusunod at dire-diretso, free-flowing. Para siyang nagkukwentuhan. Okay? That's unstructured. Ang disadvantages ng unstructured is baka kasi hindi na natin na-achieve yung kung ano yung aim of the study mo, no, sa phenomenology. In semi-structured, you are guided by probably 5 to 6 questions that these are general questions that could branch out through probing or through exploratory questions. Okay? Next, structured is like parang meron kang checklists, no? Na specific lang. Ito lang, no? Yung tatanong mo. And there will be no further probing or follow-up questions. Okay. So these are some of the rules in conducting an interview. So number 1, it must be precise and you must choose the right words. Again, be sensitive specifically on the words and the topic and the concepts and how you use these words, because some words could equate to discrimination and stigma. Okay? Keep questions short. Okay? Use language that's understandable. Avoid jargon or technical terms. Use only open-ended question. Okay? Dapat laging exploratory. Lagi dapat elaborative. No? Observe proper ordering or logical sequencing. No? So, from, kunyari, live experiences of kidney disease or end-stage renal disease. So, ang logic nun is yung ano yung perception niya, anong naranasan niya, at through the course of disease, para siyang nagtital ng story. Pag ganun siya. Hindi yung ano agad ang nangyayari ngayon. So, dapat balikan nyo muna ano nangyari in the past. Avoid leading questions or improper emphasis, no? Avoid loaded or double-barreled questions. Yung katulad lang sa Quanti. So we have forms of interview, we have personal interview and telephone interview. So may mga advantages at saka disadvantages. Sa personal interview, ang advantages niya, nakikita mo siya physically, nakikita mo rin yung environment, no? At nakokontrol mo, okay, yung mga situation. In virtual, no, in telephone, hindi natin nakikita yung environment niya. Kaya pwede nating ipa-describe yung environment. But yung physically na environment, hindi natin na-check kung yun ay nakaka-apekto sa sagot niya. Okay? And some of them, probably, they do not want to have a video on. So, ideally, if it's virtual, dapat ay naka-video on, no? Para makita mo yung mga facial expression and gestures that must be included in your data gathering. Okay? So, checklists are used, an instrument that cannot be adequate or accurately captured with the use of an interview. So, itong mga checklist, ito yung parang katulad ng ginagamit natin sa ating mga pagde-demo. So, nandun yung mga checklist. Yan. So, these are the 10 commandments of data collection. So, number 1, think about the type of data that will have to be collected, no? Kailangan clear kayo. Is it a quantity? Is it a quali? What data will I gather? No? Think about where will you get the data, no? Yan yung kasama sa feasibility. Make sure that the data collection form you are using is clear and easy to use. Kaya nag-reliability test. Make a duplicate of data file, no? So mas maganda maraming mga backup file kayo and it must be accessible only by the researcher. Now, do not rely on other people to collect or transfer your data. Okay, so some other researchers have research assistant. However, you must you must prove to the panel that the research assistant is properly trained to conduct an interview and or to disseminate the questionnaire. Plan detailed schedule when or where will you be collecting data. Be prepared for anything. Allocate 25 to 50 more time for your schedule. Meron kasing nangyayari na unforeseen events. Now, you have a schedule for data gathering and there are some unforeseen events. No? Cultivate possible resources. Okay? Or participant pool. So, for example, you must have 10% buffer. Kasi meron talagang hindi magbabalik nung inyong mga questionnaire. Kaya nung kanina, yung 1,000, so we have 280 plus, kaya 280 as your respondents times 0.10, so you have 30. So dapat mga nasa 310 ang iyong respondents. Kung hindi man sumagot, pasok pa rin siya doon sa statistical significant yung iyong sample. Okay? Try to follow the subject. No, kunyari nagkaroon tayo ng hindi nasagot, so we can message them directly. Okay? Follow the previous return. Okay. Then we have triangulation. Triangulation is a method and triangulation is also checking the validity. Now, pag sabing triangulation, chinek ba to ng member checking kayo? Chinek ba to ay pinilot test ba natin? And pina-check natin din sa expert, no? Yan yung mga triangulation by validity and reliability. We have also triangulation by methodology, no? Para siyang mixed method, no? So, gusto mong i-validate yung claim mo sa quanti at sa quali. Okay? So, yan. Yan yung tinatawag na triangulation. So, preparing the data analysis, no? So, discuss natin yan later. Translating verbal data to numeric form. So, based on the objectives of the study. Okay?